Do you want to get your comic or graphic novel or really any other kind of book into bookstores and libraries and other retailers? Well, keep watching. Hi there, I'm Andrew. I'm the founder of Black Panel Press, a graphic novel publishing company. And today I'm going to be talking to you about distribution. So how do you get your book into bookstores and retailers and libraries and all that sort of thing? So I'm going to be talking mostly about comics and graphic novels, but really a lot of this applies to any type of book. So if you're publishing a novel or anything, you can keep watching because a lot of this will apply to you. And this is actually part 8 of the self-publishing course I put together over at course.blackpanelpress.com. So I'll have the link in the description. If that's of interest to you, head over there, and there's a lot more about publishing over there. So let's get right into it. All right, so who are the major players in bookstore distribution? So we call it the book trade market. So in the retail market, there's really two different wholesalers. So these are the main wholesalers who are going to be able to sell your book or your comic into retailers. So for the comic market, the main one, they've been around for God knows how long, probably 40 years or more, is Diamond Comic Distributors. I work with Diamond, and they're a great bunch of people. I definitely recommend reaching out to them. They have their process for submitting new graphic novels outlined pretty well on their website. But over the last few years, there have been a couple of competitors that have popped up. So there's, I believe they're called UCS Comic Distributors. Another one is Lunar Comic Distributors. So I'll have those links as well, and you can go check them out. Definitely recommend, because I have experience with Diamond, because they are probably, I don't know this for sure, but I think they're the most popular comic distributor out there. So I recommend reaching out to them, but you want to keep your options open because a lot of the times, like Diamond and other distributors, they receive a whole lot of submissions, and you want to make sure that you have options, right? So submit to all three if you can. And for the bookstore market, that's going to be Ingram. So that's the primary wholesaler that sells the majority of books to the retailers, to the bookstores in North America. I think they have some distribution also in the UK and maybe in Australia, some other English-speaking markets, but definitely in North America, they're the biggest. And so for all the independent bookstores, they're going to be the ones to order from. And then also some of the chains, I'm not sure which ones, but they'll order from Ingram as well. And then for libraries, it's going to be Baker and Taylor. So again, that's the primary wholesaler. So that's the company that will sell into the local libraries. They order from Baker and Taylor. All right, so those are your different markets. You have your comic, you have your bookstore, and you have your library markets primarily there. So those are the wholesalers that you want your book to be available from. All right, and then from e-commerce, you have your author or publisher site. You also have Amazon. Kickstarter is really popular. And you have comic and book festivals. All right, so there are a few what are called master distributors. So those are Independent Publishers Group West, National Book Network, and Midpoint Trade. So these are the ones that are the most widespread in the industry. If you have any shot at making a distribution deal with one of these, you definitely want to go with them first. So try them out. I'm not saying that you should wait before you reach out to other distributors. Always, keep conversations going, keep your options open. But if you can get, especially in the book trade market, if you can get any of these master distributors, that would be definitely recommended. And some smaller distributors, if you consider the book trade market as a whole, Diamond Book Distributors is a fairly small distributor, but highly recommended, again, especially if you are publishing comics or graphic novels, because of their expertise with this medium. Then I would definitely recommend Diamond Book Distributors as your number one option if you're going to be distributing comics or graphic novels. And so they have two sides of their business that we looked at earlier. They have Diamond Comic Distributors, and Diamond Comic Distributors will distribute comics or graphic novels to comic shops across North America. But then they also have the other half of the same company, which is Diamond Book Distributors, which will distribute to the wholesalers that we looked at earlier. and to retailers as well. There's a couple other ones that they're smaller, but I have spoken to several of these, and they're a lot more accessible. If you are an independent author, if you're just getting started, if you don't have a big following or a lot of experience in publishing so far, then these are some distributors that will work with smaller publishers and authors. And sometimes, some of these, they have a larger startup fee than others. Some of them have no startup fee. So, all right, so let's take a look down through some of the options for comic distributors. Okay, so we have Diamond Comic Distributors. As I mentioned, we have Lunar, UCS. We also have Emerald Comic Distributors. And that's owned and operated by Ann Bean, who's a really lovely person. And as long as your book is of good quality, and she's somebody that I would definitely recommend reaching out to talk about opportunities to distribute your book, especially like really indie stuff, LGBTQ. They do a really good job of distributing that, primarily on the west coast of the United States. So I recommend reaching out to Anne at Emerald. And then Powerhouse Distributing. So this is a company, the guy who ran it, I can't remember his name, but he was a really nice guy, seemed very, a hustler. And I don't know if they're still around, so you have to look and see if they still are. But the Emerald Comic Distro and Powerhouse, those are two very small distributors. I know that Ann Bean is still around and I think doing well. They don't have that many stores. Last I looked, there was about 30 stores, probably more by now, because again, she's a very hard worker, hustler type of person. So I wouldn't be surprised now if there's more stores in that network, and that she might eventually become a competitor of Diamond and Lunar and these other distributors. But for now, pretty small. You'd only want to work with them if you can't get a deal with either Diamond, Lunar, or UCS. These are the major comic distributors, so which have comparable distribution networks. All right, so let's look at the Diamond application. Again, there's another link that I'll have in the description, but just to get a general idea of the application. So you want to have product samples ready. I recommend using some of the print-on-demand services to do that if you don't have your book already printed in large quantities. So like Lulu Express, Amazon, KDP. You can also do Ingram Spark, probably a bunch more out there. Just use print-on-demand. You're going to do a product info sheet. You're going to put together a cover letter. So you want to have everything very polished and professional. A publishing schedule. So Diamond has probably thousands and thousands of accounts. So each account takes administrative time to maintain. And so Diamond and other distributors, they don't want a million different accounts, right? So they want people that are going to have more serious publishing schedules. So several books per year, ideally. If you're an independent author with one title, well, it have to be a really darn good title, I think, to come on. So if that's the case for you, keep your options open. Maybe consider working with a publisher in order to get your book distributed. And then you have to have a marketing plan. So social media plan. The larger the following that you have, the more successful that's going to be. So highlight that. If you have a newsletter list with a couple thousand people, or social media following on Instagram with 10,000 people, definitely highlight that. And the festival conference plan. What events are you going to attend to promote your book, and an advertising budget and plan. So these are all things that you want to have planned out. So different modules of the course, as I mentioned, if you wanted to visit that site later on. I do cover some of those topics, but there's a lot of people on YouTube also that cover similar topics. So another company that I like quite a bit is Reedsy. I think they make marketing promotion pretty accessible. So just to summarize this now, how the industry works and how all the different major players interact with each other. So you have different kind of like layers of this industry. So first you kind of have yourself, so the publisher or the author. I haven't added that anywhere here, so there's no icons. So just imagine that you're a publisher or you're an author. Okay, and you're going to sell your book to a distributor. A distributor is like Diamond Comic Distributors, American West Books, Independent Publisher Group, many others. I will add a list of distributors to the description so that you can check them out and go and visit them and see if you can make an application. All of them will sell to the wholesalers. So yeah, the wholesalers are mainly Ingram for the bookstore market and Baker Taylor for the library market. And then technically Diamond for the comic shop market only. They kind of work as a wholesaler as well. Can't say only because there's always some exceptions, right? But let's just think of it in simple terms. For the comic shop market, they are also a wholesaler here. All right, and then all of the wholesalers will sell to the independent retailers and some of the major chains. So, like for example, they might sell to Barnes & Noble, to Indigo. Some of these larger bookstore chains, actually, they'll buy directly from the distributors. So in some cases, some of these major chains, they will not buy from the wholesaler, they buy directly from the distributors. At least in some cases, right? And that's just because they'll get better terms. They're big enough that they can do that. So, and then you have other bookstores. So the independent bookstores in your neighborhood, for example, they're buying from Ingram. The libraries, your local libraries, buying from Baker and Taylor. So I hope that gives you kind of a good idea of all the different players in the industry and how they work together. So it's again another topic that I'll get into at a later point here on YouTube, but because one of the reasons why the margin is so low in publishing, you're not going to be rich in publishing unless you do a lot of volume. So one of the reasons the margin is so low is because of all of these players that each need to take a piece of the pie. Right? So they each need to get a percentage of the profit to support their activities. And so that reduces our overall margin. But they do provide services that make sure that their books get in the hands of readers. Okay, there's a lot more material in here, a lot more detail, but for YouTube, I don't think people want to watch an hour on book distribution, so I'm just going to talk a little bit about a couple services that I find really interesting for digital distribution. So I definitely recommend that you distribute your books digitally because you have the advantage of people that they don't necessarily want to spend as much for the physical copy. They just want to read it on a tablet or something. There are many people like that in North America and in the world more broadly, but also because it can be very difficult to ship physical copies to Europe, for example, if you have customers buying from Europe. And so by offering your book digitally, that makes it available to them. So these are two platforms that are kind of like digital aggregators of books. One is Draft Digital. This is the one I use. They don't charge anything up front. They just charge 10% of your sales. They distribute to all of these different platforms, so Amazon, Apple, Barnes & Noble, Kobo, Overdrive, etc. So I find the biggest source of revenue for me are Apple Books and Amazon. So if you don't want to give up 10% of your sales, well, you could probably do just fine by just doing Amazon and Apple. Maybe you could throw the book on Kobo and some of these other ones too, but there's also Google Drive, but not a lot of sales happen there. There's another platform. I didn't have the greatest experience myself, but it's a bit of a different model. So it's a fixed monthly rate. I can't remember what the pricing is right now, but you can go visit them and find out, with 0% of your sales. So you keep all of your sales. All right, so that's basically it. That's the basics of distribution. If you'd like to get more information, definitely reach out to me. Like I said, you can visit course.blackpanelpress.com. Send me an email. I'll be happy to help you. And thanks for watching. So later on, I'm thinking about creating a video that will actually walk you through the exact process I went through when I put together my submission package for Diamond Comics, and I'm walking you through what I think will help improve your chances of success. So if that's something that you're interested in seeing, please leave a comment down below and let me know that you want to see that. And also just let me know if you have any questions at all. I'll be sure to answer them down in the comments.